In 1948, 3 years after the end of World War II, Berlin, once a great city of the world, was now in ruins. The war claimed homes, lives, and hope. Food and supplies were scarce. Disease was rampant. Power and fuel shortages left few available transportation services. Miss Traute Greer was a teenager during the war. She tells us her vivid memories about that time.
Also, ehrlich zu sein, es kann sich keiner vorstellen heute, wie es damals war. Es war furchtbar. Meine Mutter zum Beispiel, wenn bei uns es Licht gab, ist die nachts aufgestanden, hat gekocht, das bisschen, was wir an Rationen hatten. Einen Tag gab es Kartoffeln mit Suppe, den nächsten Tag gab es Suppe mit Kartoffeln. Also wir mussten sehen, wie wir es hinkriegten. Ich hatte eine Schulfreundin, die ist in den Garten gegangen und hat das Gras abgeschnitten und hat versucht, das Gras heiß zu machen und dazu essen. Manche haben förmlich den Dreck, die Scheiße von der Straße gegessen, um nur satt zu werden.
Berlin was divided into 4 sectors under the governance of the United States, England, France, and the Soviet Union. Berlin itself was within East Germany, an island in the middle of the Soviet-controlled territory. On June 24, 1948, the Soviets attempted to take control of all Berlin. Their brutal strategy was to blockade all road and rail access to the western sectors, thereby denying food, medical supplies, and heating coal to the people. The Soviets were convinced that in a few weeks, Western residents and officials would give in to Soviet control in exchange for reopening rail and road access. In response, the Western Allies created a daunting and seemingly impossible plan which they believed would be a mission possible. On June 27, 1948, the airlift began. To keep the 2 million residents of Berlin fed, the Allies did airlift tons of food, coal, and gasoline. One of the American pilots who flew in the Berlin airlift was this unassuming and balding 28-year-old man from Utah named Gale Halvorson. After arriving in Germany, Halvorson commanded his first supply flight into Berlin's Tempelhof Airport in September 1948. They flew the relatively new Douglas C-54 Skymaster, a big 4-engine propeller-driven aircraft that would carry 4 times more than the older Douglas C-47.
Well, there were many flights in Berlin. Each one of them was enough to keep you awake. Airplanes, one after another, every 3 minutes, going across the border over East Germany and into West Berlin.
What was your most memorable flight into Berlin during the airlift?
I guess the one most memorable was one of my engines caught on fire, the full load of coal. And I had enough power in 3 to keep alive, and went into Berlin on 3 engines, and in weather, made a weather instrument approach, got it on the ground okay, and so I trust that old airplane. I had 4 engines. I'd lose one, I could fly on another one a little while anyway, even with a load on. So I felt real comfortable in that C-54 Douglas Skymaster.
Behind me is the mighty Douglas C-54 aircraft. This is the exact same type of aircraft that Colonel Gale Halvorson flew into Berlin delivering supplies to the beleaguered citizens. The C-54 could carry up to 20 tons of materials, and 225,000 takeoffs and landings occurred during the 9 months of the Berlin airlift.
Then, a small gesture of goodwill was the start of something that would thrust Halvorson and the Berlin airlift onto the front pages of newspapers throughout America. He told that on his next flight, his crew would drop candy from his airplane. A child asked, "How will we know which airplane is yours?"
I said, when I approach, and you have to come over the field first, as I come to land, I'll wiggle the wings of that big 4-engine airplane. When you see those wings wiggle, that's got the stuff. Just watch that airplane.
Dann wussten sie, dass das Gale war, und dadurch haben die sich schon so alle posiert, die Kinder, dass sie wussten, wo was runterkommt.
When I came back the next day, had a lot of parachutes, hanks of parachutes tied to candy bars. I came around the final approach and just came over their heads, and the crew chief was in the back. I gave him the signal, rang the buzzer, he popped them out. The kid says that the freedom was more important than flour. And wow, when they make that statement, these kids, some of them were dressed in ragged clothes, but clean. And the children were so instructive that they were the reason that I decided. I reached my pocket and all I had was 2 sticks of gum. I said, holy cow, this won't go very far, but broke in half. Gave half to 4 kids, and boy, the others gathered around and said, come back tomorrow and I'll drop enough for all of you.
As news of the operation reached the United States, children and candy makers from all over the U.S. began sending candy. Children all over Berlin had chocolate. They named Halverson Uncle Wiggly Wings and the Chocolate Uncle. Today, Gail Halverson lives as a retired Air Force colonel in his home state of Utah. In May 2019, Tunison Foundation Executive Director John Helminiak traveled to see him and extended a very important invitation. The Tunison Foundation, a nonprofit organization, owns and operates a World War II C-47 aircraft that still carries her wartime name, Placid Lassie.
This is an original World War II aircraft. Its name, Placid Lassie, was given to it by its original World War II wartime crew. They named it Placid Lassie because in the morning, when they warmed her up, her engines always ran very, very smoothly. She also never gave them any problems. She was really a very placid lassie.
Helminiak asked the colonel if he would consider being an honorary crew member aboard Placid Lassie during the 70th anniversary events in Germany, held in June 2019. With a firm handshake, Colonel Gail Halverson, the man who brought international acclaim to the Berlin Airlift, agreed to join the Tunison Foundation to fly to Germany. In May 2019, Placid Lassie and her crew from the Tunison Foundation flew thousands of miles from the United States, including a dangerous overwater crossing above the cold North Atlantic Ocean, to reach Europe. The fuel for each aircraft was generously provided by Total Fuels of Germany. On June 9, 2019, 70 years after the end of the airlift, Placid Lassie arrived at the U.S. Army Air Base in Wiesbaden, where an estimated 60,000 people were waiting. After touchdown, the C-47 was given a water cannon salute. Colonel Halverson disembarked to a hero's welcome. For the crew of Placid Lassie, flying with the Candy Bomber as an honorary crew member brings similar emotions, although for very different reasons.
The opportunity to meet him and fly with him and fly an airplane he flew was amazing.
The significance of what he did back in 1949 and the uniqueness of being able to be on the airplane with him and actually be flying him in.
Well, when I first seen him, I thought, wow, here is a real hero. There is the real McCoy.
There's no words to describe what was going through our heads knowing that Mr. Halverson was in the back of the aircraft while we were trying to recreate what he had accomplished 70 years ago. It's just amazing.
What an honor it was to bring this honored individual here that meant so much not only to the U.S. military, but to all America as he presented this heartfelt event by dropping the candy to the children going into Berlin. What a simple American thought that was.
On that day at the Wiesbaden Air Base, an extraordinary event was about to happen. Placid Lassie was loaded with about 1,000 parachutes and candy, both donated by Jelly Belly Candy Company in Fairfield, California. Then, Tunison Foundation Board Chairman and Chief Pilot Eric Zipkin invites Colonel Halverson into the cockpit. As a highlight, Colonel Halverson himself took the pilot seat, flying over the airport, dropping candy on a parachute, just like in 1948 and 1949.
Just like old times, and the kids, they chased those parachutes like they were gold. And then we'd drop them and then turn a little bit and look back, and kids just breaking their neck checking the parachute.
With Zipkin flying co-pilot, Halverson flies the historic C-47 straight and level, makes turns, descents, and eventually lands. Throughout every maneuver, Zipkin never touches the controls.
He flew extraordinarily well. It was very clear that he had a lot more experience in the DC-3 than I do, and that was he was very timid at the outset, and then kind of got right into it, to the point where he flew the approach and actually landed the aircraft.
I learned to fly before the war, and I got a flight scholarship. Raised on a farm, had plenty to eat and lots of love, and didn't know I needed any more, except the war coming, and I got a flight scholarship to get a private pilot license, and loved getting off the ground, breaking ground, being free to maneuver. So it was in my blood, and I enjoyed that. Enjoyed flying, even though it was in those restricted circumstances.
After landing, the candy bomber signs the inside of the cargo door of the C-47 with the salutation, "To the crew of Placid Lassie." A few days later, Colonel Halverson returned to Tempelhof Airport in Berlin, the German capital city. Here, in 1948, while speaking to children behind a barbed wire fence, his idea of a candy drop to Berlin's children began.
The ground control approach person still hear their voice. You're on the glide path, you're on the center line, maintain your current rate of descent. You have a half-mile to go. You should break out at 200 feet and half-mile visibility. And that was all we needed. And oftentimes we landed with less than that because we didn't want to take the load back to West Germany.
Behind me, adjacent to Frankfurt International Airport, is the memorial to the Berlin Airlift. The three pillars that you see reaching into the sky represent the three different air corridors, each of which Colonel Halverson flew into the city. At the base of the monument are the inscriptions of the American airmen who perished during their service during the Berlin Airlift.
Colonel Halverson awaits the commemorative Tempelhof Airport flyover of 25 C-47 aircraft from the USA and Europe, led by the Tunisian Foundation's Placid Lassie. The colonel salutes. It's an emotional moment for the candy bomber, who also served as commander of Tempelhof in the 1970s.
I dedicated some of my life to seeing that the people got their food to eat, and that means a lot to me. Never forget it. Berlin ist meine zweite Heimat. Yeah. Danke.
Thank you for all.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
For all what you have done
It
for the
was
town here.
my pleasure. The children were so good.
One of my favorite experiences is when my father meets people who were children or who are children of those who were living in Berlin at the time of the airlift. I love to look in their faces because they look at him with such adoring eyes and such love that it is very moving to me to see that, how much that meant to them, doing something for the children, and how much that simple act meant to so many of them.
And it was just a very impressive experience, being able to be on this airplane. And we were able to do the candy drop, and that is always really a joy, which represents freedom, hope, and friendship between the Germans and the Americans, and just kindness around the world.
You just don't give up. And when things don't go your way, you don't quit, you don't sulk, you don't go as an introvert, but that you always are positive and you're always believe in yourself, and that you work hard in whatever you do. And I think that was one of the lessons that I learned, was perseverance and just never giving up.
Es war tremendous, es war, was noch nie in der Welt passiert war, dass man so 2 Millionen Berliner füttern mussten mit den Flugzeugen, die quasi alle 2 Minuten landeten. Und es war für die Soldaten, für die Flieger ein sehr schwerer Job. Aber wir haben das alles geschätzt und aus Feinden wurden Freunde. Also wir liebten sie abgöttisch mit ihrer Luftbrücke, kann man nur sagen.
To feed the former enemy that tried to shot down my buddy. I knew it wasn't the individual that was involved, it was Hitler, and so it wasn't difficult to know that these 2.5 million people were salvageable souls, and whatever it took to fly, we were ready to do it.
For his part, Gale Halvorsen was given many awards, including the Congressional Gold Medal, the highest award that the United States government can present to a civilian.
And well, of course, the Bundesverdienstkreuz from the Germans, and that's what I'm wearing now. This Red Cross is the Bundesverdienstkreuz, the German Service Cross to the Order of Merit, given to me by the President of West Germany during the Airlift for dropping parachutes to the kids in West Berlin that had no chocolate.
The Berlin Airlift was one of the greatest logistical feats in modern history, and an undertaking of humanitarian relief on a scale we have not seen since. The operation's success stunned the Soviets, who had refused to believe it could make a difference. The blockade was lifted 1 minute after midnight on May 12, 1949. In today's dollars, the Berlin Airlift cost approximately $4 billion. It also claimed the lives of 39 British and 31 American airmen. But it also saved thousands of lives. And despite the accolades, the global fame, Uncle Wiggly Wings is still a down-to-earth farm boy from Utah.
Let's sing together again. I want to sing one of your favorite songs, Shenandoah, which you sang in the beat fields.
Okay.
All right, so we're going to start off.
Oh, Shenandoah, I love your daughter, far across the old Missouri. Oh, Shenandoah, oh, Shenandoah, I love your daughter. And that's all I remember. Well, the Tunison Foundation were great supporters and hosts of me, so I'm delighted to have them as a support agency and get me back.